Hi, this is Michael Rubin, and you may know this is take 2 for lesson 23. I put it out on YouTube yesterday, the first take, and it was way too quiet. So I don't know what I did to fix it, but basically I took apart all my audio equipment and then I put it together again, and it seemed to be fine. So great. Even if you've already watched this, it may be an interesting experience to watch it again. You know, I don't have a script when I do these things. I'm just kind of talking off the top of my head. Now, the reality is, I mean, I've taught these lessons a million times with private students, so I have an idea of what I want to talk about. But it may be interesting to have watched both, so that you get a sense for, you know, how I deal with explaining a certain subject and how sometimes it may be a little different. In any case, last time we learned about the major scale C, C sharp, and D, and now we're going to write out all 12 of them. And you know, in the key of C sharp, we saw that there were two academic enharmonics. Enharmonics is when you have a different name for the same note. So the note F in the key of C sharp is spelled as E sharp, which means one note higher than E, and the note C is spelled as B sharp. So as we do the 12 major scales, there's one other key that uses academic enharmonics, and that is the key of F sharp, so keep a lookout for that. So here are all the root notes, the ones in the one, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. So many holes, I hope I got it right. Anyway, so you should see C, C sharp, D, E flat, E, F, F sharp, G, A flat, A, B flat, B. And you may ask me, why do we use the key of C sharp? Why not the key of D flat? And my answer is some people do use the key of D flat. Mostly rockers use C sharp and jazzers use D flat. But sometimes, like the key of A flat, pretty much everybody speaks in A flat, because if you changed it to G sharp, the amount of academic enharmonics would get pretty convoluted and ridiculous, to the point where the note G in the key of A flat becomes the note F double sharp in the key of G sharp. So it's a little crazy. But you should be smart enough that if you think about the key of C sharp, but your bandmate thinks about the key of D flat, you should be able to communicate with him without having to, you know, slow yourself down. So I'm going to recommend that, you know, I'm just going to give you all 12 major scales in a second, but I'm going to recommend that you do the math. One, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. And if you're wondering, do you have it right, you can send me an email or make a comment on the YouTube, and I'll check your work and, you know, give you a suggestion if you need it. So let's see. Here's all 12 scales. Yep. So your next move, now that you have all 12 major scales, is to memorize them. Excuse me. And when I say memorize the scales, I'm not just saying the D scale is D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D. I'm saying if somebody says, what's the third note in the key of D, you know right away, F sharp. If somebody says, D is the fifth note in which key, you know right away, the key of G. So you have a number value for each note in every scale. Now you may say, that's too much to learn. Well, first off, you don't have to learn it today. If it takes you a couple of years, that's fine. But believe me, the moment this stuff becomes instinctual, doors are going to open wide, because so much of music theory is based on the major scales. So, and when you really know your music theory, you know, music is often a question of, I'm going to make a sound, what are you going to do to my sound? And if you can quickly think about theory, your responses to their sound can become a lot more interesting. So, you know, you could read them, you could write them, and when you write them, always do the whole, whole halves, you know, just keep pushing yourself with that. Do the math again and again. Read it before you go to sleep. I find that if you study before you sleep, it really helps you. But a great thing to do would be to play it. So if you get a keyboard, and you can play all 12. Now the great thing about a keyboard, I can't do this on a melodica because I got to blow in, but on a regular keyboard, you can play C and then say C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, and you say it out loud. Or even C is the first note in the key of C. D is 2. E is 3. If you say it out loud as you're playing it, it really helps instill the scale into your consciousness. But, you know, a piano is not a harmonica. Now, if you've got all your bends and all your overblows together, you could play all 12 major scales on the diatonic harmonica. A lot of us don't have that together, or even if you do have that together, it's pretty complex because there are 3 octaves on the diatonic harmonica, and each one is completely different than the other one. So, you know, it's a lot of brain work. But what I recommend you do is get yourself a chromatic harmonica. Much simpler to understand. This is the Hohner Super Chromatica model number 270. No affiliation with Hohner, but I love them. They're very nice people and make a good harmonica. So the great thing about you don't have to know how to bend or overblow. Here's the white notes, here's the black notes. And it's got 3 octaves, but each octave is identical, so you only have to learn 1 pattern per scale. So it's a lot easier. Now, if you were to learn on a piano and then transfer your understanding of scales to the diatonic, that's a big transfer because the layout of the piano is very different than the layout of the diatonic. Now, the layout of a chromatic is also different than the layout of the diatonic. However, they are both harmonicas, so they share a lot in common. So, you know, if you learn your chromatic scales, then when you go to play them or use the understanding on the diatonic, you can say, okay, this is just like the chromatic, but it's different here. It's a lot easier assimilating between the 2 instruments than it is from piano to diatonic. So, big recommendation: get yourself a chromatic. You probably shouldn't have to spend more than $150 on a real good one, you know. So, believe me, I know money is money, but you know, it's a good investment. And plus, you know, if you get to play chromatic, it gives you a little bit more variety in your show. You know, I mean, I really hate the cross harp to forever experience on the harmonica. I basically say a couple songs on cross harp, 1 song in third, a couple songs on cross harp, 1 song on chromatic. It keeps them interested. So, I want you to keep a couple things in mind. First off, learning all 12 major scales, you know, it may seem like this huge task, but I want you to put it into perspective. Let's say you were an actor and you were in a play and you wanted the lead role, but when the roles came out, you found out you were the mayor of the town, and you got the script and you were disappointed to find out you only had 12 measly lines, and you learned them right away and slept through the play. So instead of thinking about it as 12 scales, oh my gosh, think about it as 12 measly scales. I can do this. Then, you know, I want to impart to you how important it is to actually play the scales on a chromatic or on a keyboard or on a diatonic. Let's say you were outside and down came the alien spaceship, and out came the alien, and he was friendly and he said, "Oh, I'm so tired. That was a long trip." And you say, "Well, I wish we had a chair. You could sit down and rest." And he said, "A chair? What's a chair?" And you try to explain it to him, and he just doesn't get it. And you say, "Well, come on in my house." And you sit him down on a chair. "Wow, a chair! These are great. We got to get these on my planet." Well, talking about scales is explaining a chair to an alien. Playing scales is sitting the alien down on the chair. So, I will see you soon. We'll talk about the layout of the chromatic and start to play some scales. All right.